Welcome back to the channel, where we remember the stars who once lit up our screens and became part of our lives. Today, we turn our hearts to one of Britain's most outrageous and unforgettable comedies, Absolutely Fabulous. For years, this show gave the world laughter, style, and fearless performances that broke every rule. But behind the bold characters and over-the-top humor were real people, actors whose lives touched millions, and whose stories didn't always end in the spotlight. Some were part of the main cast, others appeared in just a few episodes, but every one of them brought something truly special. As time has passed, we've had to say goodbye to several of these beloved performers. In this tribute, we look back at the lives, careers, and final days of the cast members from Absolutely Fabulous who are no longer with us, remembering not just how they left this world, but how brightly they once lit it up. June Whitfield, the beloved English television actress who brought warmth, wit, and extraordinary charm to generations of audiences, passed away on December 29, 2018, at the age of 93. In the hit comedy Absolutely Fabulous, she played the hilariously aloof and puzzle-loving mother to Jennifer Saunders' chaotic Adina Monsoon, a role that became one of her most iconic and endeared her to a whole new generation of fans. With her gentle expressions and impeccable timing, June brought a subtle brilliance to the part, offering the perfect counterbalance to the show's outrageous energy. But her legacy stretches far deeper. From her earliest days as Eth in the radio comedy Take It From Here to her long-running television partnership with Terry Scott in Terry and June, she spent over 7 decades making people laugh. Born in Streatham, London in 1925, June was immersed in the arts from a young age and trained at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. Her talent was apparent early on, and by the 1950s, she had already become a household name on British radio and TV. She worked with nearly every great British comedian of the 20th century: Tony Hancock, Benny Hill, Frankie Howerd, Ronnie Barker, and always stood out not by dominating the spotlight, but by elevating every scene she was in. June never craved stardom for its own sake. She preferred to support others, always the calm, funny center in a whirlwind of chaos. Her portrayal of Miss Marple on BBC Radio, her many appearances in Carry-On films, and her extensive theater and radio work only added to her incredible versatility. Even in her later years, she continued to shine in shows like Last of the Summer Wine, EastEnders, and Doctor Who. Her death marked the end of an era in British comedy, and the tributes that poured in from co-stars like Jennifer Saunders and Julia Sawalha reflected just how much she was loved, not just for her talent, but for her grace, kindness, and quiet genius. June spent her final year in a care home and passed away peacefully, leaving behind a lifetime of laughter, a daughter, and countless fans who will never forget the gentle force she was. Kate O'Mara, the legendary English actress and writer known for her striking presence and unforgettable performances, passed away on March 30, 2014, at the age of 74 after a short but devastating battle with ovarian cancer. Fans of Absolutely Fabulous will remember her as Jackie Stone, the sharp-tongued, colder-than-ice older sister of Patsy, played by Joanna Lumley, a role that perfectly captured Kate's flair for playing fierce, commanding women. But her legacy goes far beyond that. Born Frances Meredith Carroll in Leicester in 1939, she was the daughter of an actress and an RAF instructor, and grew up surrounded by the world of drama. After dabbling in speech therapy, she found her true calling on stage, making her theatrical debut in The Merchant of Venice in 1963. Her career spanned everything from Shakespeare to horror films, but it was her roles on television that etched her into the public memory. She was unforgettable as the villainous Ronnie in Doctor Who, a Time Lord with chilling detachment who saw the universe as her personal laboratory. In Dynasty, she was the scheming Caress Morel, Alexis Colby's fiery sister, adding heat and tension to an already explosive series. But behind the glamorous characters and sharp lines, Kate's life was marked by personal struggles that few ever saw. She was a mother who lost her beloved son Dickon to suicide in 2012, a loss that shattered her. At the time, she was too ill with pneumonia to even know he had passed, and by the time she did, the weight of grief had already changed her. That heartbreak, combined with her own declining health, led her into a quiet final chapter spent away from the spotlight. She continued to write and perform when she could, even hosting an evening with Kate O'Mara just months before her death. She was open about her battles with depression and the emotional scars left by a violent rape in her teens, pain that she carried with strength and grace. Through it all, Kate remained fiercely intelligent, beautifully honest, and deeply loved by fans and colleagues alike. Her final tweet read simply, "Thank you so much for your kind tweets. It's both humbling and completely overwhelming." Those words now echo as a quiet goodbye from a woman who gave the world decades of unforgettable moments, both on screen and off. Marianne Faithfull, the iconic English singer and actress who passed away peacefully in London on January 30, 2025, at the age of 78, was far more than just a famous name from the 1960s. She was a woman who lived every moment of her extraordinary life out loud, with pain, poetry, and persistence. On the beloved British comedy Absolutely Fabulous, she played the unforgettable role of God, a tongue-in-cheek cameo that became instantly iconic, showing her ability to laugh at life and at herself, even after all she had endured. Born in Hampstead to an eccentric MI6 officer and a Hungarian baroness who had fled the Nazis, Marianne's life was unconventional from the very start. As a convent-educated teenager, she was discovered at a Rolling Stones launch party, and soon her haunting voice on As Tears Go By made her an international star, launching a career that blended folk sweetness with tragic undertones. Her striking beauty, public romance with Mick Jagger, and presence in the wild swirl of 60s London made her a legend, but behind the glamour was deep personal turmoil. By the 1970s, she had fallen into heroin addiction and homelessness, sleeping rough in Soho, surviving overdoses, broken bones, and a coma. But somehow, she rose, her battered voice reborn into something rich and real. With the release of Broken English in 1979, her artistry exploded anew, her raw and rasping vocals capturing the ache of a life fully lived. Her role in Absolutely Fabulous as God wasn't just clever casting, it was a wink from a woman who had seen heaven and hell and come through them both. Over 6 decades, she acted on stage, film, and television, and worked with everyone from Orson Welles to Nick Cave, Metallica to Jean-Luc Godard. She was nominated for Grammys, survived cancer, beat heroin, and faced COVID-19 when doctors thought she wouldn't make it. Even in her final years, living in Paris with arthritis, a broken back, and hepatitis C, she still released new music, setting poetry to melody and singing about loss, rage, and resilience. Marianne Faithfull was never just a muse. She was an artist in her own right, a survivor with a shattered voice full of truth. Her death may have taken her physical presence, but her spirit remains in every song, every performance, and every line she once delivered with fierce, defiant grace. Dora Bryan, the beloved English actress whose voice, warmth, and incredible range lit up British stage and screen for decades, passed away on July 23, 2014 at the age of 91, with her sons Daniel and William at her side in a nursing home in Hove. Best remembered by many modern audiences for her role in Absolutely Fabulous as Dolly, the cheeky and loyal friend of June Whitfield's character, Dora brought a sparkle and bite to the show that only she could deliver. Her scenes were brief but deeply memorable, full of that dry wit and unmistakable charm. But behind that small part was a lifetime of remarkable work. Born Dora May Broadbent in Southport, she began performing on stage at just 12 and quickly became a force in the theater world, later joining ENSA during WWII to entertain British troops. Encouraged by Noel Coward, she changed her name to Dora Bryan, a name that would soon be seen across London's West End and on Broadway. Her unforgettable performance as Helen, the cruel and drunken mother in A Taste of Honey 1961, won her a BAFTA for Best Actress and left a haunting impact on audiences. It was raw, real, and brutally honest. Throughout her career, she was often cast in eccentric or troubled roles, but she never let herself be boxed in. She was dazzling in musicals like Hello, Dolly and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, and also took on serious work with great acclaim, including her award-winning turn in Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party. But her personal life was marked by deep pain, multiple miscarriages, a long battle with depression and alcohol dependency, and the tragic loss of her adopted daughter Georgina to alcoholism at just 36. After the death of her husband Bill Lawton in 2008, Dora's health declined, and memory loss forced her into retirement in 2006. Yet even in her final years, her spirit remained. She attended a gala in her honor and exhibitions celebrating her life, still able to smile and receive the love of the public. When she passed, her son Daniel said, "She just left us." It was heartbreaking but peaceful. Dora was more than a star. She was a survivor, a mother, and a woman who gave everything she had to the craft she loved. Her legacy in British entertainment is vast, her performances unforgettable, and her voice, both literal and emotional, lives on. Sylvia Anderson, who passed away on March 15, 2016, just 10 days before her 89th birthday, was not just a television producer or a voice actress. She was the heart and soul behind some of the most iconic characters and shows in British TV history. Best known for co-creating Thunderbirds with her then-husband Gerry Anderson, Sylvia's most unforgettable contribution was bringing to life the unforgettable Lady Penelope, the glamorous aristocratic spy with a sharp mind and an iconic voice, which Sylvia herself provided. The puppet was modeled after her, and it's no exaggeration to say that Lady Penelope was Sylvia in many ways: elegant, intelligent, determined, and ahead of her time. Though absolutely fabulous was not her main platform, Sylvia did reprise her Lady Penelope voice in a guest episode, subtly bridging generations of British television. Behind the scenes, Sylvia was more than just a voice. She developed characters, crafted costumes, cast actors, directed voice sessions, and brought emotional depth to puppet shows that would have otherwise just been explosions and machinery. From Stingray to Captain Scarlet to UFO, her fingerprint is everywhere in the golden age of supermarionation. And yet, despite being a creative equal, she was often overshadowed by her husband in the public eye, a reality she accepted with quiet grace, focusing instead on the stories and characters she loved. Her daughter Dee described her as a legend and a force of nature, and those who knew her speak of her generosity, passion, and creative brilliance. In her later years, she served as head of programming for HBO in the UK and was still writing and developing shows with her daughter, refusing to ever truly retire. Her death came after a short illness at her home in Bray, leaving behind a son, a daughter, grandchildren, and a legacy that shaped generations of television. Sylvia Anderson didn't just make puppet shows. She made characters we cared about. She gave them voices, stories, humanity, and in doing so, she helped millions of viewers believe in something magical. Her passing marked the end of an era, but her work will forever live on, especially in the voice of Lady Penelope, elegant, poised, and unforgettable. Alexandra Bastedo, the graceful and deeply compassionate British actress, passed away on January 12, 2014, at the age of 67 after a long battle with breast cancer. Best remembered for her iconic role as Sharon McCready in the 1960s science fiction series The Champions, she played a secret agent gifted with superhuman powers, a role that made her an instant sex symbol and international star. Her character was bold, intelligent, and independent, a groundbreaking portrayal of female strength at the time, and it left a lasting impression on audiences across the world. Born in Hove, Sussex, Alexandra had dreams of becoming a vet, and even as her beauty and talent pulled her toward the screen, her love for animals never faded. From the moment she beat 14,000 girls to win a teenage ambassador competition that launched her film debut in 13 Frightened Girls, to starring in Absolutely Fabulous as a chic 1960s model friend, her screen presence remained elegant and captivating. But behind the glamour, her heart belonged to the voiceless. She founded the Alexandra Bastedo Champions ABC Animal Sanctuary in West Sussex, where she cared for over 150 animals and turned her land into a refuge of love and healing. Her marriage to Patrick Garland, a theater director and her steadfast partner until his death in 2013, grounded her life with shared passion and creativity. Despite dealing with illness and losing her brother to cancer, Alexandra showed quiet strength and grace. She refused reconstructive surgery after a mastectomy, devoted herself fully to her sanctuary, and in the end, even left her entire estate, nearly £1 million, to ensure her animals would always be safe. Her death was deeply mourned not just by fans, but by fellow animal lovers, friends, and countless volunteers who knew her kindness up close. She was more than just a beautiful actress on screen. She was a woman of substance who used her fame not to chase spotlight, but to bring light to those in need. Her legacy lives on through every rescued soul that walks the grounds of her sanctuary, and in the hearts of those who remember her as both a screen legend and a gentle warrior for compassion. Anita Pallenberg, who passed away on June 13, 2017 at the age of 73 due to complications from hepatitis C, wasn't just a striking presence in the fashion and film worlds. She was a living symbol of a wild, rebellious era and a deeply complicated soul who left behind both legends and scars. Known best for her fiery relationships with Rolling Stones members Brian Jones and later Keith Richards, she wasn't just a girlfriend. She was a muse, a co-creator of their mystique, and at times, their anchor and undoing. Her appearance as the devil in the 2001 episode of Absolutely Fabulous, opposite her friend Marianne Faithfull, who played God, was a surreal but poignant reminder of the duality she carried. Seductive, dangerous, yet deeply human. Born in Rome during the chaos of World War II to German-Italian parents, Anita's early life was shaped by displacement and language, becoming fluent in 4 tongues before adulthood. Expelled from school at 16, she roamed between Rome's Dolce Vita nightlife, Andy Warhol's factory in New York, and fashion runways in Paris before eventually stepping into cinema. Her role as the Great Tyrant in Barbarella 1968 and her haunting performance in Performance 1970 with Mick Jagger solidified her. As more than just a muse, she was a performer in her own right. But behind the scenes, Anita endured tragedy after tragedy. Drug addiction, a toxic and abusive relationship with Jones, the traumatic death of her infant son Tara in 1976, and the suicide of 17-year-old Scott Cantrell in her bed, a wound that never truly healed. Her long relationship with Keith Richards was passionate, but riddled with turmoil, addiction, and painful losses. Despite all this, Anita fought to reclaim her identity, earning a degree in fashion from Central St. Martin's in the 90s and staying clean for the final years of her life. She refused to write a memoir, unwilling to exploit the pain for gossip. In her last interviews, she spoke about death without fear, saying she had done enough, seen enough, and was at peace with the end. Anita Pallenberg was never just a rock star's partner. She was a force, a survivor, a tragic beauty, and a woman who helped define an era, even as it threatened to consume her. Her brief but unforgettable appearance in Absolutely Fabulous was more than a cameo. It was a quiet wink from someone who had lived every extreme of fame, love, and chaos, and still stood tall, limping but unbroken.